was 312s at the department. So I was working Friday, Saturday, Sunday days at the time. And then Monday through Thursday, I was at agency.
Mm.
Actually, I have a funny story, and it's past the statute of limitations, so I can't get in trouble because I don't work there anymore. But
Hey.
You're listening to the Art and War podcast with your hosts, Nathan, B.R, and Paige. Nathan is a Canadian illustrator with a couple years of military experience. B.R is a British anarchist that moved to the States. And Paige is a lifelong artist based in Washington. All three are passionate shooters and community builders. Together, they run the Seaburn Art page. Enjoy the show.
Apparently, by running Windows 95 with like Netscape Navigator or whatever I'm using, has caused this podcast intro to fail multiple times. So here we are.
Yeah, hello. Welcome to the Art and War podcast. I'm B.R, joined by Nathan, and today we have a very special guest, Mr. Mike Parks, co-founder of Agency Arms, Gucci Glocks for days. Pleasure to have you, sir.
thank you very much for having me on. I appreciate it.
Of course.
Mike, before we really get into it, how much would you hate me if I said I owned a Zev?
Dude, so this is one thing actually that we have been huge on is, I don't know how long you've been following us, but at the very beginning, we wanted to do things different. So you can piece together your pistol, and I don't want to call it agency pistol because we're just happy to be a part of your build. So you can get just slide work, just framework, just trigger, for the fitted stuff or by obviously the parts. And then to kind of show that we like to play with others, meaning there's room at the table. And also, just because I'm a Ford guy doesn't mean that you're not a Chevy guy. And we can't be the solution for everybody because that's just not the way the world works. So we did our Fatal 15 series back in the early days where it was SSVI's interpretation of our framework with our logo on it, our slide work with his logo in it, and to show the public that it's okay to work with other gun companies that are direct competitors.
I love that.
That doesn't bother me at all, man. I'm just happy to have some parts in that build.
Oh, I was being very facetious. I think, as you know, my daily carry is an agency Frankenstein that I really love. But that was a poor bit on my part and a really mature answer on yours. I feel a little off.
And honestly, I love your reply because that gets to kind of the heart
incredible.
of what this show is all about. Is kind of there is room at the table for everyone. Like this is in this industry. It's so interesting because it's an industry and culture that's constantly under threat from outside forces. It's not like if we're beating each other over the heads and trying to eat each other's dinner, where does that leave us? Kind of in a shitload of trouble instead of being like, no, actually we're there's friendly competition and so there should be, in a free market, we should be competing for the best product and the best life-preserving and life-saving gear. But at the same time, we're all on the same side end of the day.
I agree. Something that comes up on the show quite a bit is, well, that general principle and the idea of a rising tide raises all ships. Yep. So that kind of embodies the spirit of that. I really liked that. I realize that the sense of humor jumping off at 10 may have not been the right idea.
No, it worked out. It totally worked out.
Yes.
Nathan just opens up, Mike, do you hate me? But before we started, you were mentioning that agency is coming up on its 9th birthday, so been around since 2015, right?
Yeah, so I mean, technically, we incorporated in 2014, but that was building up the product and figuring out who the heck we were and what we were going to do in the business model. So we launched the company January 2015. So we kind of consider that our real birthday, and so we're kind of up on year 9. It's kind of crazy.
Oh yeah,
that's amazing.
So what led you to I guess. Let's go back to the origin story. What got you into shooting in the first place? Has this been a lifelong thing? Is this something you grew into as an adult? Where did your shooting journey start?
So my dad actually, and it's funny because my dad is not a big gun guy. He's not actually a big shooter at all, but out of necessity, my dad was a cop in LA, and he made some enemies out there, and his department was teeny tiny, and so he had some legitimate fears. So I started shooting at 8 and then had a gun, my Glock 19 that was mine, but his, right? Hidden in my room since I was 10 years old. I went to 5 elementary schools, 2 junior highs, 1 high school just because we had to keep moving. So it was really out of a necessity. And then it just kind of became a total passion of mine. So I was that nerd. My dad loves telling embarrassing stories, so I don't want to leave the embarrassed story out. But I couldn't tell you why. but ever since I was super little and can't remember, I wanted to be a Marine, right? And so I was digging, fighting holes in the backyard, making tree forts, and running around in my dad's extra belt equipment stuff, making commando fantasy stuff. Like I'm running around like a little kid, right? And so I was fascinated by guns and gear, and then was actually going towards music, and then I was a drummer, and was going to be a studio musician. Then 9/11 happened when I was in high school, and I said, nope, I'm going to go serve. So I joined the Marine Corps on my spring break of senior year, and played with the bigger guns, called an aircraft for stuff that I used to do for my military job. But on the side, I was an armorer. It was like my B billet, and I just totally was fascinated. Loved it. Got out, became a cop, and then I got to play with all kinds of different other toys. And my friends were telling me, hey, why don't you tell us what's cool? Why don't you tell the world what's cool? Why don't you start like a YouTube channel? I'm like, huh, yeah, I guess I could do that. So I started a YouTube channel, and then people started asking me to like, hey, can we send you stuff? I'm like, sure. And then they started saying, hey, how would you make it better? I'm like, that sounds like a business. So I started consulting. And that's actually where I met my business partner, Randy's. He was a machine shop making stuff for a bunch of people. And one day he was like, so we actually ended up both consulting for a company that did some custom stuff. And then that client moved away, and he's like, I'm going to have my business. I'm like, well, holy crap, what are you going to do? He's like, do you want to make guns? And I said, yes, I do. That would be a lot of fun. Let's do that. And we thought it'd be a side. I was thinking I was working at 312. I can do my other 4 days doing gun stuff. And hey, if it pays the car payment, it'll be great. And so we started with 3 employees, January 2015, and it just snowballed. We had no real thoughts or ambitions of it being this. We literally thought it was going to be like just side gig, and we both still do our primary stuff, and it just ran into what it is.
That's awesome.
You guys really made a name for yourself, and quickly. I saw agency everywhere. I still do, honestly.
So we kind of did something that, for some reason, our industry hadn't really been done. We just guerrilla marketed. So because I was, on the YouTube side, which, by the way, it's all deleted. You can't find it. So the embarrassing early videos of me looking like a total silly guy on the camera, like, hi, I am Michael Parks with Frontline Tactical. It's gone. So you can't find it.
Yeah. not even archived. It's completely gone.
Wait, Frontline Tactical?
Yeah. Frontline Tactical Solutions.
I think I may used to have watched you guys like a long time ago.
Well, yeah, Nathan, you are not to sell you out, but I mean, you've been doing this stuff a while, so
a little bit longer than you'd expect. Do you ever see like the Matt V 2099 and the era of how much bacon you can cook on the barrel of an AK-47? It was that era.
Yeah.
That was a good era of gun tube.
Dude, it was a good time, and I thought I was like, man, one day, but actually for the time, it wasn't doing too bad. I, nothing crazy. I had 1,000 subscribers, and I had like 500,000 views, but that was over the course of like, I did Frontline for like 3 years. But anyway, so I guerrilla marketed because I knew all the photographers. So when we first started,
show your stuff off.
I was calling all the photographers, and I'm telling them like, hey, I'm doing this thing, blah, blah, blah. Can you just send me a gun? I'll trick it out and I'll send it back to you. And so our guns ended up with other companies' barrels, because we didn't have barrels when we first launched. And when it was a lubrication photo shoot, it was our gun disassembled for that photo shoot. And when they needed good guy stuff, it was our gun with all the stuff. And then holsters, it was our gun in the holster. It worked out really well. I don't want to call it like, I was so smart. No, it was just a pure, thank God it worked really well, because nobody was really doing that. And there were other custom companies out there doing kind of what we do, because Zev even used to do full customs before they went more corporate styling and just limited their options. And so nobody really had done that. So, just working with all the DMG photographers, we weren't a member of DMG until a few months later after we started. But we just built all the DMG photographers' guns up and other photographers, and it was just like one of those things. You open up Instagram, and if you're a gun guy following gun companies, you just couldn't help but see our stuff everywhere. So
that's awesome.
It worked out. So it was just pure luck, really.
And like back then, what did the landscape for kind of custom gun work look like? This was a little bit before my time, really. Yeah, I was in the UK at the time. I didn't really have the access to be like, oh, I could do this to my gun. I was, I just saw custom guns from afar and didn't know the particulars. But like, what kind of options were out there when agency started up?
Not many. So there was a company called Salient, Zev. Zev were the OGs, really. When it came to mainstreaming it, I'm sure there were some smaller companies doing it as well, but Zev really, they were originally called Glockworks. Then they had to change their name to Zev because Glock didn't like that.
Yeah.
I couldn't understand why. But Glock kind of has a big muscle to throw around. So, but then so those are the other guys that were really doing it. And there was a bunch of small companies, like even Robar Guns could be considered in that space because they would recoat your slide, and then they did all the framework type stuff. Sadly, they're no longer around. But there wasn't very much out there, and the few things you could find were very limiting. So some guys are saying it's all or nothing, or we didn't feel the pricing was really where it should have been. Because Randy, my business partner, he was the CNC. He still is the CNC guru for us. He's the Picasso of our brand. So all of our styling is his brain. I'll tell him what I need as a shooter, and he makes it look amazing. So no credit on any of our product and how it looks to me. I know how to do the this thing and pull the trigger, and he does the cool things to make it look cool. And I'm not even that great at pulling triggers anymore because I don't shoot at all anymore. Join the gun industry and stop shooting.
Yep. You get into the industry and you're like, I'm so fucking busy. I'm not at the range as much as I should be. It's a crazy trade-off. You're like, I'm working with what I love, but now I'm doing it less. What?
Yeah, it's such a strange thing. But anyway, so the landscape was kind of interesting because it was so limited. And then there was a lull based on some people moving their companies and stuff at the time, so that we entered at this very just perfect storm situation. And we just kind of took over because we gave people options that weren't available. 50-50 plan, pay half up front, half at the end, mix and match, piece it together. So if you're a guy that's in the military and doesn't make a ton of money, you can piece it together over time. As well as we gave people a sense of community because it was a little thing, but we put an agent card in with every build. So we stamp your name into it. It's like a credit card type thing, material wise. Yeah, and so we stamp it in there, and so you're, it'd be like, M Parks, agent, 132. And so we would do these things called the agent roundup at SHOT, which not many people in the public get to go, but we thought, hey, maybe we'll have, a handful of people show up at this bar that we said we'd be meeting everybody up at. And we'd get like 100 people sometimes. And then I was talking to Randy, I'm like poking Randy, I'm like, dude, look over there. And there were guys holding their agent cards out to see who had the lower number, so they didn't have to buy the next beer. They were like challenging each other, like almost like challenge coins.
That's awesome.
And I was like, this is like the craziest kind of community culture I never foresee happening. And sadly, we've lost a little bit about that because just the growth and moving, and it's hard to manage because we don't have a big bankroll behind us. We're not owned by an investment fund. We don't have any investment, angel partners, or it's just Randy and I. We're 50-50. So there's no money behind us. It's a grubby street cop and a machinist that just bootstrapped this whole thing. So it was organic and it was super cool. And then it was really, I don't want to say it was us. I think genuinely credit where credit's due, Zev. Zev really were the ones to bring this into a mainstream thing, and now it's just gigantic. And I think it's all attributed really to them. Not saying they're the first, because there may have been someone else I don't know about ahead of them, but they were the ones to really make it mainstream.
And like, as now being in or coming up on your 9th year, like has it been hard to kind of keep that brand recognition and just stay on top as one of the kind of Coke and Pepsis of Glock upgrades out there? I don't want to paint either Zev or you as Coke and someone else's Pepsi. That's a Pepsi challenge I don't want to participate in. But how's it been kind of staying razor sharp in terms of your brand and being the guys to go to for Gucci Glocks?
It's always a challenge. Whenever you have some success, there's always a target on your back, right? And now, if you look around in the industry, when you ask, like, for instance, what's the landscape like, it's super weird. When you talk about full custom, we're really the only game left. Zev doesn't do it. Now, I'm not saying we're not the only ones in the Glock game. Everyone's making slides, triggers, barrels, blah, 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 blah. You throw a rock and you can hit 6 different guys that buy their barrels from Azimuth and make barrels. But if you send your gun in, who can you send your gun into where they have their own barrels, their own slide work, where they'll cut your slide or replace it, their own trigger, their own framework, base pads, mag wells, blah, 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 blah. It's just us. There's a lot of cool guys out there, like Dave Mods. Dave Mods is up by you. He's in northern Idaho, and you can send your pistol to him, and he'll trick it out for you. But he doesn't make a lot of.
What did you say his name was?
Dave Mods.
Dave Mods. Sorry, yeah. I've been looking into milling a RMRCC in my 48. Sorry, continue. Totally unrelated.
Oh no, it's all good. Dave's a good dude, good friend of mine. He lives up in northern Idaho. Great dude, and he does great work. He does framework and Cerakote work, and then I don't know who he outsources his manufacturing, like machining wise, but great dude, and I love supporting good people. We did collaborations with him too on some stuff. So, but yeah, so it's kind of an interesting space because I'm not saying anything bad about Dave. I hope it doesn't come across the wrong way. It's just he doesn't have the manufacturing component. Yeah, he doesn't have the manufacturing component that we have. So, like Zev back in the day, you could send your gun in and trick it out. Salient back in the day, trick it out. Now, none of those companies either aren't around anymore, like Robar's no longer there. And Zev, they changed their business model completely when they had that big investor come in, that investment group come in, I should say. And they went full corporate and said, nope, no more custom. We're just going to go to the SKUs that sell. So we're literally the only game left in town that does what we do. So it's interesting because right before I moved from California to Idaho, it was a mad dash. Everyone knew we were moving, so they just wanted to get the guns in to get ahead of the queue. And when we moved, we had, oh God, I don't remember, it was like 24 or 2,600 guns in for work. Yeah, which is, if you talk to a gun store, 2,600 guns is not a big deal. But it's not 2,600 guns that we're just buying OEM guns to sell. These are customers or dealers sending us 2,600 firearms. And we're just like, oh man, we're not going to, our lead times are not going to be where they used to be. So anyway, I'm sorry, I went on a total and went into the
No, you're totally okay.
So anyway, that's kind of where we're at in our place. We're in a kind of a space that no one else is in. But we have competitors that are mile long for parts. But on the custom side, it's really just us.
That's cool. So you guys, obviously back in the day there was a little bit more of that, but that's you guys have maintained being the ones to go to, and other people have kind of found different avenues for kind of Glock upgrades and other pistols.
Yep.
That's something else I was curious about. Do you guys have any kind of relation, or have you guys had any kind of conversations with Glock themselves? Because I imagine, Glock perfection. However, I'm going to change every single damn part of my Glock until it's just Goldilocks right for me. Like, have you had any conversations with them, kind of concerning that?
So I'm going to share a funny story with you.
Yeah.
SHOT Show 2016. 1-year-old company. The world is our oyster. Our eyes are wide because Glock wants a meeting at SHOT Show. And we're like, holy crap. Glock knows who we are. This is going to be amazing. Holy crap. And the dreams start pouring out of my ears because I'm kind of like the dreamer between the two of us, where I'm like floating into space thinking that we're going to grow to this massive thing, and Randy's pulling my ankles back down saying, hey, dumbass, reality's over here, right? Which makes it perfect because we meet in the middle. Yep. But so my mind is going to, we're going to be their custom shop, right? I'm all excited. And we walk into this meeting and just a bunch of suits walk in. And I'm like,
that's not what dreams are made of.
No, immediately I'm like, I think I may have misread this. And so they say, oh, thank you for coming. Take a seat. Don't even know why they asked us to do that because it was so short and abrupt. No small talk. And they go, so you guys do not supply Glock pistols for builds. And we're like, for the most part, we don't. Customer sends their guns in, but to save on shipping, dealers prefer that we purchase them and just ship them out. And they're like, no, you're misunderstanding. You do not supply Glock pistols for build. And we're like, no, we don't. And like, thank you so much for your time. It was great speaking with you. Have a nice day. And we're like, well, we could have done this over the phone, dude.
This could have been an email.
It's the like intimidation factor. It's the lawyers on retainer making their paycheck.
Yeah, so we're just like, we walked out of there and we're just like deflated, right? And we're like, well, I mean, telling us that we can't do what we're doing, so we're gonna
It
keep
wasn't
doing
a
it.
cease and desist.
Yeah, it's not don't do it. It's just don't supply the gun. So that's why we don't supply weapons for the builds, and we just make that across the board. So SIG, it seems like they don't mind it, and they actually encourage you. So they sell the FCUs and stuff. So we're working on setting up a program with them. Hopefully that works out. It's just they're so big, and their turnover rate is so high. I'm not sure why, if they're just people keep promoting or moving. I'm not sure what that is, but very difficult to get some stuff locked in with them just because of the constant movement over there. But yeah, that's our policy now, is just you got to send in a gun. And also that just also keeps it in the full-blown gunsmithing category. So if we supply the gun, ATF refers to that as you've remanufactured it. And so then there's excise tax when Glock made it, and then we have to pay excise tax on remaking it.
Nice.
It makes zero sense because it doesn't change the way the gun actually functions or the caliber. But I'll leave the ATF out of it for now. So yeah.
I hate the ATF.
I hate the ATF. Speaking of, I actually have a hat for you, BR, and I got a hat too in the mail from a Dirty Kid. It just says, actually, wait, I'm just going to show you. 1 second.
I already know where this is going. He's gonna walk across his house. There we go. Beautiful.
ATF
Beautiful.
is gay.
Yeah.
On for the rest.
So there you go. So has there been any other communication with Glock since then, or was that kind of one and done?
No, actually, every other year, usually in the summer, we have had a couple once where it was 3 years in between. We get a new cease and desist letter that tells us, hey, you need to put this verbiage on your website, and it needs to be this, cut and paste. This has got to be on there. Then, okay, cool. We submit, send them links. Hey, look, it's on the website. They go, cool, thanks. 2 years later, hey, your website needs to have this on there. It's like, yeah, we already changed it. Oh, no. You want it to be this now. Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
You need to change the font. We have a license with Verdana.
Yeah. Copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste. Cool. Email, links. Awesome. Then another couple years go by. Hey, so that's it. And you're like,
Glock legal department again.
Yeah.
How you doing, Mike?
Yeah. I wonder if they send out C&Ds for other horse cum sellers.
Like, hey.
I don't know, but then
you do not supply horse cum.
Yeah. So they then now we have to put stickers on if we use the Glock box to send the gun back, which we don't. We use our soft cases, but we have to put a sticker on it that says it's not an endorsed product of Glock.
Damn, so it's just been warm and fuzzy and cuddles from them the whole time.
Yeah. Katrina, what are you doing? or is it Katarina? I don't know. The Glock lady.
Oh yeah, yeah. So anyway, it's never been exactly a warm, fuzzy kind of conversation point. I don't think I've ever talked to anybody really at Glock. I think I've only talked to attorneys.
Damn! Holy shit! That's a crazy thing. Because I mean, they like arguably the most popular handgun out there, probably internationally, easily.
Yeah. Although the SIG is kind of edging them out right now, to be honest with you.
It's coming up. I mean, on your side of things, you must still see more Glocks than SIGs, right?
Oh,
really?
It's about even, and we're just bringing on the 365s right now. So just 320 to Glock and the 43 Slimline series, it's about the same. And once we have 365, I think it's going to bump them down to where we do more SIGs than we do Glocks.
Wow. Okay, that's my Glock fanboy bias getting in the way.
Yeah, I mean, I carry Glocks. I do have SIGs as well, and they're super cool. But I think I've just shot a Glock for so many years. I grew up shooting Glocks that I just feel I like the grip angle. I'm the weirdo that likes it, which I think the majority of people actually do. It's a smaller group that people that want that hump cut off. I prefer it.
Yeah.
Honestly, me too.
Do you still have that original Glock you mentioned having since you were like 10?
No, so yeah, it was my dad. It was my dad's gun, and in California, everything is Droz, so it's like to a specific name, to a specific person. Yeah. But so no, my dad still has it though to this day.
Oh, okay, cool, nice.
That's good. Yeah.
Was it like a 19 or what was it?
Gen 219.
Gen 2, damn.
Yeah. One of the brand new Gen 2s at the time too. And but one really cool thing, my dad passed on to me when he retired from the police department. His Glock 21 compensated from the factory, and he had the older mags that were, said government use only, government. So I took that gun and I was sitting there for, God, I don't know, probably 3 months. And I was just like, I have to add me to it. So the very first bone saw that we ever did was my dad's gun.
Damn.
That's awesome. Is that one of your...
I'd be sitting there shaking.
Yeah. Bone saw is what I carry. I love it. I love it.
Good choice. Good choice.
A man of culture.
Yes. I genuinely, I'm not saying this like this is our first time talking. We have no professional relationship other than you seem pretty cool, and we're all friends now. Genuinely, and BR knows, I really, really love building Glocks. I love Glocks. This is the nicest.
You have a toy box of Glocks. It's ridiculous.
I like them. I like them. It's
I like them too. I've got 2, and I've been in the country a lot longer than you.
Yeah. I don't know. I just, I really like building things, and this was just perfect. There is no reason for me to say this. I love it. The bone saw is just perfect.
Well, thank you.
No worries.
I mean, I have to ask, what does a co-founder of Agency Arms carry for your go-to daily carry?
I carry 48.
Oh, so, I like that.
Yeah, it was a multi-cam Alpine, and then my holster and my gut said differently. So it's worn quite a bit. I carry it every day. I've got a ported barrel because this is before we had barrels for it, so I just put a fitted bar stow in there.
Yeah.
Our hand anodized, flame anodized titanium trigger, and then of course I put an A in the grip, which we don't offer, but small perks,
Yeah, why not? Why not?
I love that.
Yeah, small perks, but I love this gun, and I don't shoot it a terrible amount because it's my carry gun, but I do all my quals with it because I'm a medically retired police officer, so I still have to qual once a year to maintain my credentials. And
I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. So once we retire, as long as it's not medical for psych or specific certain medical type things, like if you had a PCP exposure, because that basically sits in your fat. And then if you absorb that fat and energy, you'll have another lapse of PCP. Yeah, bad stuff. Bad stuff. So if you have those types of things, they won't allow you to carry in retirement. You'll still get your medical retirement with pay and that stuff, but you just won't be able to carry because of a danger or a hazard. But I had a spinal injury that retired me, and so that doesn't prohibit me. So I just have to qual once a year.
Yeah. Still, that sucks. Sorry. Do you mind if I ask what happened, or was it?
Yeah, I don't mind at all. I was doing aggressive step class.
Yeah.
And, no, I'm kidding. No. So, Glendale, California, where I was a cop, is the identity theft capital of the country, and no real rhyme or reason. And our Galleria, our big mall, we have an outdoor mall called the Americana, and then the Galleria, it's huge. So we have our own little substation in there and cops that only work that area. And usually they're in plain clothes, so they can observe and watch people do silly things. And to make it clean for court, they usually call in uniformed cops, me, out on patrol, black and white, to come up and make first contact with the suspects to detain them, because you can't argue that I'm not a cop in uniform. And so I came up to make the stop for them. There was a couple that did like $18,000 in fraud in the course of 4 hours. And so they've just got tons of bags from Gucci and Apple and whatever. So I get out of the car. I had a reserve riding with me that day, a really good friend of mine named Ron, who sadly passed away. Not on line of duty, he had cancer. And so I'm like, hey, Ron, I'm going to go contact him because it's stuck in traffic. Because when you get around the gallery, it's just tons of traffic. So as I'm pulling up, though, criminals, there are some that are so smart and we'll probably never catch them. The ones we do, they're just basically job security, because they're just so silly sometimes. When you see a cop pull up and you've done something wrong and you go, and then you dive behind a pillar with your phone and you do this and lean back, we call that a clue. I might want to. So I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's our suspect. So I hop out, I start walking towards him, and he puts his phone in his pocket and he starts walking faster. So I start to jog to close the gap, and then everything goes through the air, and he's just yabba dabba doing it away from me. So it's a full blown foot pursuit. He had a girl with him, but she's not running, and my partner I figured was gonna go talk to the girl. So I'm like, "Don't you move!" And I keep running past her. And the detectives were all there, just not within immediate proximity. They were about 100 yards away. And so as I'm chasing this guy, one of the detectives runs across the street, and they kind of run into each other in the intersection in the crosswalk, and they start to fight. Suspect falls to a knee and starts to pull a knife. I'm in full sprint, and I got 220 pounds of fat ass going 100%, right? And so there was no stopping it. So I'm just like, okay, with 220 pounds plus 20, 30 pounds of equipment, that was not going to be a pretty thing to try to stop full sprint on a dime. So I just leaned in and just tackled him as hard as I could. And sadly, he heard me coming, so he kind of moved. And so I took his hips to my neck instead of my shoulder. So I herniated C4, 5, 5, and 6. Two discs, basically, C4, 5, 5, 6. So I have a synthetic replacement that cut through right here. And I have a synthetic disc in my neck. And then the other one was just at that point of you could cut it out, you could not. So the city fought me on replacing both of them. But anyway, so I hit him, heard a big pop. I thought it was my shoulder. Then we're fighting. And there was like 6 officers on scene in literally less than a minute. And we took him into custody. And afterward, I'm sitting there like, I don't feel 100%. I think something's wrong.
Yeah, can't just walk this one off.
Yeah, so I told my boss, my sergeant at the time, like, hey, I think I'm okay, but I don't feel right. Something might be wrong. I don't know if it's just an adrenaline dump weirdness, but I don't know. I don't feel right. I don't feel okay. And so he's like, hey, whatever. So I go home. I can't sleep. I feel really just not a ton of pain at the time, just really uncomfortable. And then the next day I go to work. I start suiting up, and I go to grab my big gear bag to throw in the trunk of my Crown Vic, and I'm like, something's wrong. And yeah, and it was all downhill from there. So,
damn. And that was like probably a few years before 2015. Like, kind of how long before we started up the company?
So we started the company in 2015. Launched 2015. My injury was July of 2016.
Oh, okay. So you started the company prior to getting out?
Yeah, so I would work.
You mentioned you did it part-time.
Yeah, so I was 312s at the department. So I was working Friday, Saturday, Sunday days at the time. And then Monday through Thursday, I was at agency. Actually, I have a funny story. And it's past the statute of limitations, so I can't get in trouble because I don't work there anymore. But I was on the phone with a dealer one time because the guy would not stop blowing up my phone. He had questions about his order. And I'm like, because I'm on duty. It was a Friday. And I'm like, hey, man, can we talk in a little bit? No, it's really important. Just hop on the phone for a minute. I'm like, shit. I'm in the middle of a vehicle pursuit. I'm chasing a guy on the freeway. I'm like the 4th car in the pursuit. So I'm just like, answer the phone, put on speaker, and I'm in the visor. And so I'm chatting with this guy going like 80 miles an hour on the freeway, right? But we're not like driving crazy. We're just driving fast and all in the same lane. And about 2 minutes into the conversation, like, dude, I'm sorry to be rude, but can you turn the TV down or off? I'm like, I'm not watching TV, dude. He's like, well, what's all that noise? I'm like, I told you I'm a cop. I'm in a vehicle pursuit right now. That's why I was asking you if I could talk to you later. And he's like, oh my God, call me later. I'm like, all right, bye. Click.
That's customer service right there. I'm a little bit busy.
Yeah. Don't mind me.
You just hear the distinct sounds of gunfire in the background.
Yeah, I mean, you get so acclimated to it because vehicle pursuits and stuff like that happens so often in LA. Like, you'll be just eating a burrito while driving. Just
going easy.
Yeah, no big deal. Now, if it gets squirrely, of course, you put it down. But, yeah.
I love this, and I think this just became a Mike Tells Us Cop Stories About LA podcast. I love it.
I got quite a few stories. In fact, whenever we see each other in person, I'll show you my U-Haul pursuit, and it's one of the best videos. My fiance always laughs at me. She's like, "Are you showing the U-Haul video again?" I'm like, "Yes, yes, I am. It's epic."
I'm so curious.
Oh, I'll show you when I see it.
It's like it's like the veteran with the contour or GoPro footage from Afghanistan. It's like, I have a folder. Like, oh, dude, I don't need to see that. Please. Like, oh no, I got some stuff to show you.
Oh, I want to see.
Like, no, you'd be like, take me to your computer. BR here with a quick word from our newest sponsor of the show that made our first video podcast possible, the great people over at Attorneys for Freedom. Attorneys for Freedom are a real criminal defense law firm offering attorneys on retainer for legal representation in self-defense cases, and are not some insurance company or provider. This means that Attorneys for Freedom are able to cover scenarios that are often denied coverage by other programs. Self-defense scenarios such as while in gun-free zones or sensitive areas, while under the influence or on medication, scenarios where you knew your attacker, and while using any weapon in self-defense, from a firearm to a household object or otherwise. Additionally, Attorneys for Freedom will not drop you from coverage, nor will they ever ask you to pay them back. Even if you take a plea deal where you admit guilt to a criminal act, Attorneys for Freedom will not ask to recoup their fees. Attorneys for Freedom covers 100% of your attorney's fees in the event that you can reasonably argue that you were acting in self-defense, and now you're facing serious felony charges. The primary key to coverage is their ability to reasonably argue self-defense in court. Nathan and I have signed up already, and you can too in no time at all. The National Self-Protection Plan is available with a one-time sign-up fee of $100 and just $35 per month after that. Family plans and annual rates are also available. Signing up via the link in the show notes or via the Seaburn Art Instagram bio link helps support the show with both your initial sign-up and every month you retain Attorneys for Freedom services. Get covered in all 50 states, support the show, and have peace of mind that should your worst day come, Attorneys for Freedom has your back. Thanks for listening, people. How's it going, lads and ladies? BR here with a quick word from the longest running sponsor of the Art and War podcast, Advanced Warfighting Solutions. AWS have been making tough as hell gear for decades right here in the US in North Carolina. Nathan, myself, and thousands of others run that gear through the ringer and trust our lives to it, whether that's LARPing in the woods or dragging kit through war zones. AWS manufactures many great packs, pouches, plate carriers, and our personal favorite, the SMU Operator Belt. A set-and-forget gun belt that crushes in build quality, capability, and excellent feedback from its many users. We are tough on our gear here at Art and War, and the SMU takes that treatment in its stride. Though already at a sweet price point, you can knock $10 more off your SMU belt with the code ARTandWar10 at awsin.com. The code and link to the AWS website can be found in the show description. Thanks for listening, now let's get back to the show.
What is like the weirdest experience you had as a cop in LA? Now I'm curious.
Oh God.
Yeah, it's a weird town.
That is it's a weird town. I've been there once. I don't want to go back.
Well, okay, that's kind of a difficult one because weird has a spectrum.
What kind of weird do you want?
There's a lot of kind of weird. I'll tell you what. How about this one? It's a little morbid, but it just kind of shows like how weird things are. It was a sad story, right? Grandpa, lived with his kids. Like they had their whole family. He was in the guest house in the back. Him and his wife. And sadly, his wife passed away. Then he had stage 4 cancer. So when the family was gone, he ended up taking his life. And just like his, you see the spectrum of things, right? Of really bad things, and you get what's called compassion fatigue, to where these things don't affect you. And also going to Iraq a couple times, seeing, death is not exactly a new thing, right? And then when you're a cop, you see tons of it. Like every Saturday and Sunday in the mornings, you're going to grandpa or grandma didn't wake up. So you see it a lot. But anyway, so being desensitized to it, I was just like, whatever. So I go, I have to wait for the coroner. So I'm going to be there for like 3 hours. And I have to stay there. And I can't move anything because the coroner wants to take the photos and stuff. So I go back to the car, I grab my Chipotle. And he is in Lazy Boy as you're looking in from the front door, he's Lazy Boy on the right. And his wife's Lazy Boy is to the left. So I'm like, well, I have to stay here. So I sat in the other Lazy Boy. And I'm eating my burrito and just hanging out. And my boss rolls up to give me relief. So, just check on me. And he walks up and I'm eating. And I'm like, hey, what's going on, Sarge? And he's like, what are you doing? I'm like, eating, waiting for the coroner. And he's like, really? I'm like, well, he doesn't mind. And just, it just, and no one's around. It's not like it was being insensitive to the family. But just, that's the kind of weird stuff you end up on, man, where you're just sitting there. Even if I was eating a burrito, I can't leave. I have to be there with the body the whole time. So when you say weird, you have weird from stuff like that, or weird to getting hit on by the mom of a juvenile that you just arrested for doing something bad in public that she shouldn't have been doing. And you're just like, are you really hitting on me in front of my training officer when I just arrested your daughter for a sexual act in public? Like, just
is it working?
Yeah, you're like, I think the apple didn't fall very far from the tree.
Yeah, I wonder why this ended up happening to your daughter.
Literally, we arrested her daughter for oral copulation in public.
Nice.
Yeah, and so we arrested them because they're both 14. Thank God they were the same age, right?
Oh God.
Yeah, they're 14.
Yeah, it becomes a very different problem if they're not.
Yeah, and so we arrested them both. My TO called the boys' parents because he spoke Spanish. I don't speak Spanish. And I called the mom. And yeah, so we have to give the mom a promise to appear. Take, like it's like a ticket, but it's not a ticket. It's saying here's a ticket thing, a promise to take your daughter to court. And while I'm sitting there writing, I'm sitting in the lobby in a chair that's like, only like 2 feet away from her chair. Dude, she's talking about how hard it is to be a single mother, and then reaches over, puts her hand on my knee when she's like, it's just really difficult. And I'm like, and I was on training, right? So I'm like 3 months into this job, and I'm looking at my TO like, what kind of screwed up test are you doing to me, dick? Like, I thought this was a test. I thought this was staged. Nope. So
there was nothing in the manual or academy for this.
No. So at first I'm just wiggling my knee, like, can you just let go of me? I don't know what to do right now. And then I had to just like grab her hand and put it away, like stop it. But so the weird spectrum is a very, very wide spectrum.
Oh.
Yeah.
That is oh man, that is something. Oh God. Okay, repressed memory just came back.
Oh God.
When I'm so sorry. I'm going to tell this verbatim, and So when I joined the Army, long time ago, there was a guy in my, God, was it basic? I think it was just basic. And he was a beat cop for a while, and he told us a story, and I think I just have to repeat it on this podcast and just get it out of my head where it's been living rent free for like 12 years. So he mentioned that like in the department he was in, it was in like rural New Brunswick or something, that there was always like the day that you are a real cop is when you find someone, you find a car on Lover's Ledge somewhere and you find 2 people fucking in it. So I see Mike nodding, so I assume this is just like a cop thing in general. So like 3 months go by, 4 months go by, 5 months go by, and he hasn't found anything. So 6 months go by and he still hasn't found someone fucking in a car. So his partner feels bad and just takes him to like, we always get people here, we're just going to stake it out. We're going to wait till we see some the glint of some taillights, and you're going to go get them. So they stake this place out, all their lights off, parked kind of close to the tree line, and they finally get a vehicle. And so it's a go get him tiger moment. So he slips out the side of the car and advances, just being really careful, not using his flashlight so he can take these people by surprise. Gets right up to the window. It's a little steamy, it's a little dark, he can't quite see. Gets up, raps on it with his flashlight, and clicks the flashlight on. And there are 3 people inside the car. There is a young man in his 20s sitting between 2 older men. And are you familiar with the term ski pulling?
Oh.
Because you got to pull in each hand, and you're
Yeah.
It's a young man's sport.
It's a young man.
As cops, you see a whole lot, dude.
Yeah.
I have more colorful stories that are definitely not podcast stories that are very amusing but extremely graphic. Things that you walk in on, things that you see, things that you go on a call completely unrelated that you walk into and you wish you never did. You're like, I can clean my hands, but I can't clean my eyeballs.
No amount of acid will burn the memories away.
No, it's like that scene in Ace Ventura where he's got the, he's like crying in the shower afterwards. You're like, I didn't need to see that, yeah. You see some stuff. I'll leave it at that.
I will be if we end up at a shot show after party, I'll be like, hey Mike. So
yeah, actually, I was going to say, like, you are here representing your company, so I won't ask you now, but I will remember this. This is going to live rent free in my head. I want to see the U-Haul video.
It's a good one. I'll just say it's cinematic how it ends. It's awesome.
Some Michael Bay stuff. No, there is a British term. Have you guys ever heard of the term dogging?
Mm-mm.
Dogging?
No.
Now I'm curious.
It hasn't made it to Commonwealth Canada.
No.
So apparently,
I mean, maybe,
apparently the activities that you were both describing are such a common affair in the UK that it has been termed dogging. There's a whole community where they pull off to the side of the road, flash lights at each other. If you see someone parked up at night on the side of the road, it is a fair assumption that that's what's going on.
Okay.
And it is so commonly joked about that, like, you can mention dogging to basically anyone above, like, middle school age, and they'll know what you mean in England. It's strange. But we can put that whole topic to bed.
Fair enough.
I knew at some point we would go way off into the weeds. I'm surprised what weeds.
It always happens. When's the last time we had a podcast that didn't just crash and burn in 20 minutes?
It doesn't
and I love
happen.
that. I love
it doesn't
that.
happen.
It wouldn't be the Art and War if we didn't just talk about ski pulling within an hour.
it's
actually, I do think that is an Art and War first.
that one is. It's especially funny, Mike, because an employee of yours who's a listener is the one that was like, "Hey, have you guys heard of this podcast?" So, like I said before we started, you gotta hold them accountable. Monday, you're gonna come. Yeah. Oh, actually, it's only Wednesday, so you can come in tomorrow and be like, "So, I went on that show that you listened to."
Yeah.
Make him do push-ups.
No, it's funny. It's actually we're taking over the shop, so the only person that we've had that wasn't, well, I shouldn't say that. Out of all the vets that we've ever had employed, we've had one sailor. Or sorry, now we've had 3 sailors, but never really at the same time. And we've had a constant, steady stream of Marines. So we have 4 Marines, including me, and we have 1 sailor at the shop right now. And the Jake is the one that referred me to you guys. Is one of the Marines. So no, he's a crayon eater like me. So he's all good. I'll leave him be.
He's forgiven.
All is forgiven.
Yes.
He's a good guy.
Much love to Jake for putting us in contact. But
seriously,
back on the topics of Glock.
Yeah.
and all of that. When was the last time you heard someone use the phrase "putting lipstick on a pig"?
Oh God, all the time.
Really, still to this day.
All the time.
Wow, I thought that was dead. Now that we're in the age of Tupperware guns being the main.
No, all the time. We still hear what you guys do is BS. Just spend the money on ammo and training. And it's like, we're not saying you shouldn't. It's just genuinely speaking. For instance, let's talk about racing a car. A guy, for instance, like when I was a cop, not knowing how to drive professionally, right? Like a cop and evasive vehicle operations course, all that stuff. You don't know how to effectively drive and chase somebody and make up ground and all that kind of stuff and how to actually drive a vehicle aggressively. So a 210 horsepower, way overweight Crown Vic can be pretty effective if you know how to drive it. Conversely, if you don't know how to drive it, you aren't going to catch a damn thing. You could be in a sports car and not know how to drive it and not be able to get around the track. So, if you look at a Glock as a base pistol or a SIG or a whatever, right? There's always ways to make it shoot flatter, faster, give you better grip, and all these things that will mechanically make the pistol more accurate, speed up the cyclic rate, all these things that can be altered that will, with good fundamentals from a good shooter that has done the training, has gone to the classes, be an even more effective shooter. Like we have guys that we sponsor that can literally basically outpace the OEM Glock. And so when you lighten the slide so it cycles faster and then do the trigger work where you have less pull distance, and Travis Haley talks about pull distance a lot, you can get more effectiveness out of that pistol. And when people say, "Oh, well, now what are you trying to be a machine gun?" And we've heard it all, right? It's like, no. However, when you talk ballistics, multiple rounds in rapid succession is more effective than single round, pause, single round. It's physics, right? It all adds up.
Absolutely.
So really what we do is not, especially the way we build guns, we don't build guns for competition. We build them as duty carry pistols or, shotguns as well. And so we don't build the gamey stuff. We build them all with a purpose, and everything has value. And usually what people think I'm going to say is not what comes out of my mouth. The number one mod that I would always recommend, framework first on a Glock. Glocks are too slippery. even the Gen 5.
Yes.
Framework is the most important. And then people go, and then the trigger? And I go, no. The next one I would say is if it's not optic equipped it. Because that's where another huge one is. And they go, okay, now trigger. And I'm like, now it's totally a preference. Do you want a lighter slide with serrations, or do you want the trigger? I'd say that's where then your priorities would be more personal. But my first two is framework first, optic second.
I absolutely agree with that. The stippling makes a world of difference, and I normally deface everything that I own with a soldering iron within a week of owning it.
I need to get on that. I mean,
I'll do it for you next I see you if you want. I mean,
yeah, you weren't hanging out in Appalachia long enough for us to start messing with my Glock too much. I mean, last time, well, no, 3 times ago now that I hung out with Nathan, he was like, buy these parts. Okay, and then they were like trigger connectors and things like that. And we were hanging out at some festival in Texas, and so I just hand him. I brought my my gun on a plane. TSA didn't catch it. No, I did everything.
We zap carried.
Yeah, zap carried.
Like, oh, it's my belt buckle.
That catch rate is so low. No, I brought it all correctly, and so I pull out my gun and I hand it to Nathan. And just as we pull up to this festival, within 2 minutes, he'd ripped my Glock open. He's like replacing the parts. I'm like, oh my god. But yeah, I've shot this thing enough. I've had it 5 years now. I've still got the stock trigger in my Glock. Double check, make sure it's clear. I cleared it before the show because I knew I'd be doing this. But I mean, just the stock trigger, you shoot that thing enough.
Very 2015 YouTube of you.
Guys, can you confirm clear for me? Can someone put a finger in there?
Yeah, here you go.
Yeah, there we go. Mike has checked clear, everyone. Just so you know. But no, I mean, just shooting this thing, the trigger is pretty damn crisp. I'm looking at upgrading to one of yours in the near future.
I literally have an agency that I'm sending you that I just keep forgetting. It was your Christmas present. It was your birthday present, and now it's in a box full of the box just keeps growing. I just keep forgetting.
So the best package we've ever received from a customer.
Yeah.
So our customers are freaking awesome. I mean, just some of the shit I swear to God. So we get this one box. This is back in 2016, early 2015. It might have been late 2015, but very early years of agency. And we had kind of a smart ass customer, which we have many of now. So we cut open his box, and I just hear, Mike, and I'm thinking, what did they put something stupid in there? As in it's just the slide, but they asked for framework because that's happened. Just silly stuff. And I walk in, and I'm like, the hell is that? And it looks like wig hair, curly wig hair.
What?
And it was not real. I'm gonna put that out there now.
Yeah,
it's not real. But he said, I ran out. He put in the note, here's my gun, build specs. Thanks so much, guys. And P.S. I ran out of packaging material, so I just used pubes. And, yeah. And so it was just freaking guy. So of course we, when we called him to confirm his build and tell him we got there, yeah, but hey, the crabs didn't need to be in there, dude. And he's like, oh, you're gross, But we have really great customers. It's just they make
that's the fun schizo energy that that should come to the table more often,
dude. Yeah, it's life's too short to take too seriously. Having some humor and it's so important. That's one thing about the shop is all I care about. Hey guys, as long as your work's getting done, have a laugh, have a good time, enjoy each other. Our culture is my number one absolute most important thing, other than of course we have to do our jobs to make money and keep everyone gainfully employed. So mission accomplishment, just like in the military, is number one, but troop welfare is my absolute near touching number two. And our culture is awesome. And so just hearing these guys go back and forth, and then sometimes the customers are ribbing them pretty hard, and I'm just like this. It was funny. I was talking to my sales director the other day. I'm like, I just love this place. And it's just hearing everybody going about. It's just I absolutely love this place.
That
a good work culture is so important.
Yeah,
it's so important.
That's something I was talking to someone else about. Kind of working in the gun gear industry is it's not necessarily the fastest track to getting rich, but
Oh no!
Hell no! Everyone's shaking their head. But when you're immersed in this culture and you're just dealing with not that you want to be in an echo chamber, but just a lot of like-minded people from all over the place, all sorts of different walks of life, but who have this commonality and generally like a really good sense of humor. For whatever reason, it's like an absolute essential part of being a good-natured, caring person in this industry is to have a laugh, because it's pretty serious stuff. We're talking about weapons. We're talking about life preserving gear, and life and death is kind of a part of the trade. But there has to be that jovial, lighthearted nature when you're dealing with that kind of concept day in day out. And it's awesome when companies maintain that.
Yeah, and I have absolutely, of course, zero involvement and zero knowledge of the pranks ahead of time. I never know about them, right? I don't see anything. I'm like the monkeys, right? No see, no talk, no hearing, or whatever. But oh my god, some of the freaking the pranks these guys pull on each other is just. But yeah, no.
I'm so curious. Is there any you can talk about on air?
One of my guys,
or off air, that's okay too.
One of my guys has a sticker making machine. And he made a sticker of stick figures, and it's funny that you bring it up earlier because it was 3 stick figures. And one stick figure is holding on to 2 other sticks, and it says above it, "I take 2 dicks." And they put it on.
I think the phrase is ski pulling.
And they put it on one of our guys' trucks, and it took him 4 or 5 days to realize it. Yeah, it was funny, and then they've been going back and forth getting each other. He has a mustache, this one guy, and so they had a whole bunch of like Burt Reynolds photos on his door when he came back from vacation. And
hell yeah. Hey, that's a compliment. I'd be like, thank you, dude.
Yeah,
well, I'm leaving this all up.
It was the half-naked Burt Reynolds photos, with him.
Oh, all the better.
Oh, dude, yeah, but it's just it was funny. Yeah, so just seeing the stuff going back and forth, and the fact that no one gets offended, everyone has a good time is what's the culture. It's key. So it's a good place.
Yeah, I love that.
Me too. I was going to ask if there were workplace Nerf guns, but
actually. So our local dealer, Stockpile Defense, last year started, now it's a yearly thing, challenged us to a Nerf battle.
Really?
So there's a place in town here called, what's it called? Nerf Wars, I think. And so it's funny. They said, yeah, we're just going to, and we were brand new here at the time. We were only here for a couple months. It was in November last year. And speaking of which, I need to go buy a new Nerf gun. No, dude, these guys take it seriously. So I'll get to it in a second. But we challenge you guys to a Nerf battle, and they have an arena. It's for kids, obviously. But we're going to invite just a couple of our, top customers, and it'll be the agency crew and the Stockpile crew, dude. So at the time, we only had like 15 employees at the time. So we had 32 employees. Then when we moved, we only came here with 11. So we had to rebuild. It was clawing uphill. It was really difficult, but my guys are just incredible, and the people we've hired are incredible. So thank God we're back to a good place now. We're at 24, so we still have ways to go, but we're good now. But so we didn't have that many people, right? And so then Stockpile, they have less employees than we do, and so they brought their whole crew, and the few customers turned into there was 150 of us there.
Oh my God.
These guys showed up.
Holy crap.
These freaking guys showed up with modified Nerf guns where they were putting like DeWalt and Milwaukee drill batteries on them so they could shoot faster.
What?
A couple guys had EOTechs on them. They were putting real like cloud defensive lights on them. They were Cerakoting some of these guns. Like not even the rattle can. They Cerakoted them and put sling attachments. And I'm like, dude, we showed up to use the freaking freebie gun. So my whole crew is like, cocking the gun, putting the dart in it, and having the one shots. And these guys are like,
oh no.
Yeah. And then some guys showed up with swords and shields and stuff. And then my fiance, her name's Danya. And Now, halfway through the night, the stockpile guys, it just ended up never being like stockpile versus agency. It started that way and then it ended that way, but in the middle, it was just people just shooting each other, having a good time. And they decided to change her nickname to Agency Mama. So they were like, protect Agency Mama, and they're diving in front of Nerf darts to protect her. And she was having the biggest, greatest time. She's like, maybe I need to change my IG handle. And I'm like, oh, babe.
Agency Mama.
Yeah, she didn't change it, but it was super funny. But that's kind of stuck. So I told her she needs to get her Agency Mama face on because Nerf Wars Part 2 is coming up soon.
Yeah, you guys gotta trick out your Nerf guns. I mean, agency can't be coming in with basic stuff.
Thing?
Yeah.
Like if 150 people showed up, I'm going to drive down there.
Dude, do it.
Like I will put an IR device and bring my nods and cut the power onto a Nerf gun. I will join Team Agency.
Yeah. I'll be like,
cause some crimes. That's incredible.
Yeah. So we've had a pretty good time. And yeah, again, we've just been very blessed. This industry, it's a very difficult industry, but it's filled with a lot of really good people. Some not so good people too, but for the most part, really good people. And I wouldn't change it for the world. I love what I do.
Oh, yeah.
I agree, and I like to think that somehow, I hear a lot of negative, but every time we've taken a chance on people, we've been happy. Like I haven't met very many bad people in this industry. They exist, but
it's so few and far between. Just the few that let ego compromise kind of the big idea of furthering this culture and industry. Like, don't want to go down that rabbit hole of conversation, but just it's so few and far between because most people get it and they're here for that and they're here for advancing that.
Yeah, the only thing that I would ever criticize that is a more of a larger issue, and it's not like a oh my god issue, is we're kind of cannibalistic as a community. If I like to hold my gun and shoot it with my pinky and it works, but he likes to shoot it sideways with one hand, and then we have to hate each other and go on the internet and scrap about it and tell each other we're both boneheads. That doesn't help anybody, right? And it doesn't make it a welcoming community because our community is under attack. So that's why we support the Second Amendment Foundation, because they fight for our actual rights. And that without our right, I don't have a business, and I kind of like those rights. So the gun store commando kind of mentality, I wish as a community we could kind of ditch the ego and lose that, because if we were a little bit more open and inviting and approachable, there are a lot of guys out there. Like a very good friend of mine, he doesn't really want to go to classes because he's like, well, I'm not a good shooter. I don't want to go and get embarrassed myself. And people...
That's the point of going to classes.
Exactly, but they're worried because they went to a class. And I'm not going to throw any kind of company names or anything into it. But he went to a class,
of course, and
he was having issues because he was trying to go fast, and because his friends were going faster than him, but they had gone through classes before, and it was one of his first classes. And the instructor started making fun of him in front of all of his friends about how he was screwing up. And it totally turned him off, and he's never taken a class again. And so it's like, if we could just ditch that machismo, arrogance, not necessarily alpha male, but that trying to establish dominance over each other and that gun store commando mentality, if we'd lost that as a community, our community would probably be 5 times as large in 5 years. It's just, we're not very welcoming. We're not very... approachable as an industry, and that's the only thing that I really wish that we all as a community could be better at.
Yeah, and
I absolutely agree.
It's one of those weird things because so many people have their guard up because of just the nature of the rights constantly being under attack and kind of that defensive attitude. But it's when it's in very rare instances it does need to be turned against bad influences who are kind of a poison for the community, but again, so few and far between. It's much more we need to look to the new blood, the people coming in who can help this go beyond kind of the legacy people whose parents taught you to shoot and kind of instilled those values in you. Because if it's just legacy, that stuff will die out. You need to be going out and expanding it. And I think we've made a lot of ground in the last few years in terms of 2020. A lot of a lot of people going out buying guns for the first time, realizing the importance of being in charge of their rights and their safety. But it's making sure that that doesn't end up being just a gun in a safe their worst day, and they otherwise forget about it, and more that they actually feel they can come into this community and really progress in whatever space takes their interest, whether it's safety, kind of independence, sport shooting, and all the rest of it.
Oh yeah,
I absolutely agree. I think one of the worst things you can possibly do, and it kind of goes two ways. It's you hand someone who's never fired a gun before, a 3-inch slug, put it into a 12 gauge. You call them a pussy, and then they. Or on the other hand, exactly what he was talking about, where he goes to a class and you have an adult man talking to another adult about how they suck and they should be better, and making fun of them in front of a bunch of other adults.
Mhm.
And I think that's one of the worst things you can do. It's like, hey, we are here voluntarily of our own time. We are all trying to learn. We're all trying to do, we're all trying to get better. And here I am making fun of you instead of teaching you how to become better,
Yep.
or supporting you. It's like, okay, you did a good group, could have been faster, and here's how you do it. Or if that's
it's that easy. Like I had the same thing with my pistol shooting. Like I was, and I've talked about this ad nauseum, but I felt pretty solid on my rifle shooting, but my pistol, being a Brit, not great. And you'd go out and shoot with friends, here and there, and kind of not trying to really go for performance. You were just kind of, friendly competition. You're like, oh man, I suck. And instead of getting that kind of feedback where it's like, hey man, if you just did this, like this grip, like me and Nathan had like recently, he helped me correct quite a few little things that really helped me step up my handgun shooting. Before then, it was just like,
thank you.
oh man,
You were good. You know.
I know. But back then I was like, oh BR, like wow, you suck at pistol shooting. It's like, okay, well fuck it, I guess I just suck at pistol shooting.
Like, yeah, it's and it goes back. It even goes into things outside of the gun world, being like, you can take it all the way back to kids learning in school. Hey, he's good at English, but he's not good at math. It's like as soon as you start saying you're not good at this,
oh, I just
you
suck.
suck.
Yeah,
People believe it. And that never really goes away. I absolutely agree with Mike. We need to be more welcoming as a community, and we have to lift people up and make sure that it's a positive environment for them to learn, or they're just not going to want to.
Yeah, like it's funny because people just think that, well, it's because we're hard people and hard blah 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 blah. It's like, look, man, no one's gonna say you're not gonna be
false machismo.
Yeah, no one's gonna say you're less of a man if you can be kind to people and just go, hey, you want to go learn to shoot? Cool, let's take you out and teach you how to shoot. I'm not gonna hand you a freaking uh, super crazy shotgun shell overcharged slug whatever to throw you on your butt. Like that doesn't do anything except scare people away. Like
it's just a dick move.
Yeah, it's just silly and it's not funny. It's really not.
No.
Whereas if we were just, and not saying like diversity and all that silly stuff that's crazy in the liberal world right now. I'm talking like just genuinely just being, I don't push my faith on people or anything, but good Christian, just being open to people, saying, hey, you want to learn? I will help you. I'm not an instructor, but I'll teach you what I can. I can guide you to places where you can learn a lot more. And if you want to carry a Ruger, go. You're carrying a gun. I'm happy for you. Train with it. Shoot with it. Learn how to take care of it. Bitchin'. It doesn't have to be a Glock. Doesn't have to be an agency. Doesn't have to be whatever. I'm happy that people are putting money into this community. People are actively participating. People are bettering themselves, which I think is incredibly important in all walks of life, and from being just a good person to being the best professional you can be at whatever it is that you do for a living. I think that self-improvement is important, and just all of it goes in a big round circle of what you put in there, in the world is what you're going to get back out of it. And being so standoffish because you think whatever, it's not going to really help you in the long run at all.
Yeah. TLDR, don't be a dick.
Yeah.
God, I would imagine that you'd have, like, I remember kind of the golden days of like GunTube and Gunstagram and all that stuff back in 2015, 2016, 2017, even later than that. And now it's hard. I can't even imagine trying to market as a company that makes professional end user products. I hear horror stories from my friends that work in the industry. How do you do it?
Uh, it's tough. We can't use Google. We can't use. Well, I mean, I don't want to say we can't use Facebook or Instagram because obviously you can. You just can't pay to promote. So you're drinking through a stir straw. Like you're siphoned down to such a small amount. We have 331,000 followers, and to get 100,000 views on a video, it's luck. Like it's funny.
Yeah.
I filmed a video one day, like when Danya, my fiance, was teaching me, like, all right, this is how you make reels. I'm like, the hell's a reel?
I'm still learning, so don't worry.
Yeah, but she was trying to teach me, like, do like the cool edits and transitions, and I'm like, so I sat there for about 45 minutes, and I'm like, screw this, I'm just going to video this shotgun, and I'm not going to try and do this 6-pistol transition gun free, right? And that video ended up getting like 130,000 views on it. I'm like, all right, and there was no effort. I was like pissed, right? But then other times I'll take 30, 40 minutes making a super cool 20-second, reel, and it gets like 20,000 views, and you're just like, what did I? So anyway, it's difficult because you can't pay to reach all of your followers. Whereas in the glory days before Instagram sold to Facebook, when you posted, everyone saw it that follows you.
Oh yeah.
It was amazing.
I miss the days of when it was chronological.
Yeah.
You post something, everyone sees it. 5 minutes ago.
Why are you hiding, honey? Wow.
Is that agency mama?
That's agency mama.
the world famous agency mama.
Yeah, and she's shy, so she's like, no. I'll show you who is not shy. This is Sophie, our French bulldog.
Hey.
Who smells
she's
the
perfect.
quesadilla that was just brought in here, and she's like, I want that.
Like, hey, feel like sharing?
Yeah, exactly.
Agency puppas.
Yeah. They have their own Instagram. She started that in their own Instagram account. Anyway, I'm sorry, I digress. I went off topic for a second.
No, you're totally
fine. Were you guys on Instagram like from the beginning of agency?
Yeah, so the account started in 2014, like I think August or something like that. Yeah, it was great back then. Now it's tough, but back in the day it was great.
Oh yeah, it's crazy how much that tool has changed, because like you see so many. Is it still the same account that you started with, or have you been banned? Oh, nice. That's a rarity. That's an antique right there.
We lost our account for 10 months, and
what?
Took forever to get the account back. Act of God to get the account back, but we had like 300,000 followers at the time, and then we lost it for almost a year. Started a secondary account, and finally got our account back, and it's been hard because we're throttled on that account big time.
Oh yeah.
It's weird, and now they have those AI tools to find pictures of guns.
Yep.
I found the way to get around it, and I don't know how long this is going to be the case.
Say it quietly.
The way to get around it is to censor the trigger guard and trigger, or put something over it. I've noticed we've had to remove a bunch of stuff. Like I drew a picture, and it was animated. Yeah. Of AR with the scope switch on it.
Yeah.
And we had that for our episode with Flux and Antimatter. And they got that. And it was the trigger guard. Every time I have done art or had a photo or anything of a gun with a hand over the trigger or a hand over the trigger guard or something over it, it hasn't been flagged. But I think that's what it looks for.
It seems to identify just the action, seeing as that's going to be consistent on the silhouette of every single gun. So if you can figure out a way to cover that up or obscure it or whatever, it seems to counter that for the time being. But, I mean, it's so weird because I feel like Instagram is such a big tool for the industry at large. Like, it is the town center for talking about the culture, spreading it, and kind of that intermingling between personalities, like competition shooters, all the rest of it, and the industry at large. And it's like, if they really, I mean, they've been coming down on us pretty decent the last couple of years, but like if they just like full ban hammer and just wipe us out, which they could do with a flick of a switch, like the industry would be all over the place. Like, oh,
Yeah.
use this platform. No, use this. This is a free speech platform with where you get 200 views, and it's like, well, fuck.
So we started our Truth
It
account
does suck,
thinking Truth was going to be amazing, and it's 100% politics. If you're not politics on there, it does you nothing at all.
Yeah.
And
it sucks that you can be unpersoned that easily, and your business, which for us, like this is part of our livelihoods, or anyone who primarily
you guys 24 employees. Like, would you say Instagram's kind of your primary means of advertising?
Absolutely. The number one is Instagram. Number two is our sponsorships. Like Aaron Cowan, John Dufresne, Steve Fisher, Paul Van Dunk, Aaron Brumley, all the guys that we sponsor. They're the Michael Jordans of this industry. So, 2AM, Ronin Tactics. So, people always want to run what those guys run. So that's I'd say a very close second. But if we lost Instagram, it'd be crappy.
Yeah,
no, very much so.
Yeah.
I don't know if this was a, I didn't think about this until just now. I did notice, and you know how like John Wick has Turan Tactical?
Yeah.
That is, I did notice in that new movie with Chris Hemsworth on Netflix.
Extraction Part 2?
He was using agency pistols the entire time. I'm like, oh, that, and I liked that. I didn't know if that was on purpose or not. I liked that.
No, so a bunch of prop houses have purchased a bunch of guns from us, and I was as surprised as you are when you saw it, because I'm like, hey, those are our guns. I had no idea.
That's
awesome. Yeah, we have we did an episode which unfortunately got like with our older version of Zencaster, it corrupted the files, but a guy who worked at one of those prop houses, and he kind of explained the machinations of how those things work.
Oh, right.
And I went to visit him down at the prop house, and he just had this entire table full of Turan Tactical pistols for some production. It was neat. It's neat seeing how a lot of those things work behind the scenes.
If you're ever in California, the guy that runs the weapons division for ISS, they're the largest prop company.
Yes, it was ISS.
So if you ever want to, I can set you up with Carl, and he can probably do that again for you guys.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that would be much appreciated. Yeah, thank you, Mike.
He's a great guy, really good friend. Known him so when I was a cop, I was asking my dad, like, hey, where should I get my duty gun from? Because my department didn't issue guns. We had to buy our own.
What?
Yeah.
That fucking what?
You get a pistol for the academy, and then you can use it up to 1 year for your probationary period. But by the end of probationary period, you have to have your own pistol. Yeah.
Huh.
Can you
have to buy.
I have questions about that we'll get into after.
You have to buy your own. You have to buy your own armor. You basically, the only thing they issue to you is your audio recorder at the time, or now it's video. Your radio, your taser. Yeah, and that's it. You have to buy your armor, your uniforms, all that stuff.
Holy shit.
Yeah. Anyway.
So how far can you deviate from a standard norm with this?
Well, every department's different. My department, there's a list of guns that you're allowed to use. Your belt has to be set up in a specific way, which it wasn't that way when I first started. So, every department's different. Some departments are super strict. Other departments are not. It just depends.
Yeah.
But
because, like, I can imagine showing up there with, like, a gold tiger striped Desert Eagle. Like,
yeah, they have you can only have these guns with these finishes, so it's pretty strict.
Okay, that's unfortunate, because that there could have been an opportunity for them to be cool, and they decided not to.
Mike, you had the opportunity to do the funniest thing of all time.
Well, they did authorize
be the beat cop that carries a single action army with a chrome finish.
Yeah,
oh god, talk about getting killed in the streets.
Like you see that cop roll up, he means business. Like, he's got like a Clint Eastwood poncho.
Okay.
But how I met Carl was to keep their permits in California, they have to do law enforcement sales.
Yeah.
So my dad told me about the prop company, and they basically they only do it for cops because they have to. And so they will just pass on cost. So I'm like, oh, they don't do it all the time, but they have to do a certain amount of sales. So literally, I bought my first duty gun from them at cost. And that's when I met Carl, and we became friends. and we've been friends ever since. The guy's a super cool dude. And then the owner at the time, he recently sold the business. His name is Greg. Also, another really, really awesome, great guy. And then we just became friends. And then I started a company and said, like, hey, let's support them and buy a couple guns to put into the rotation. And so our guns have made it into like, TV shows we didn't know about. We were in that movie Ava, AVA. The female, she was using our gun for a part of it. And we're like, oh, hey. So every once in a while you get these customers are sending us stuff, or like Black Adams, the bad guy, with his gold pistol was an agency gun. And there's a part where the entire screen in the movie theater is just the gun. We're like, huh. But
like, whoa.
Yeah, but we have no clue any of this is happening until we see it in the movies or on TV.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Because you never really think about that kind of thing and how it makes it, how things make it in. But yeah, at ISS, I went to the Georgia division, and all those guys are super cool. But companies will just sometimes sell them things, like send them things. Like they'll have boxes of broken EOTechs or aim points or whatever, and they'll find their way into movies because these are all gun guys and they know how to set things up. But a lot of the actual guns, like they choose it themselves, and because they're gun guys, they actually usually have taste.
Yeah, and it's interesting, they put out all these things for the show and tell, and director producers walk by and they go, that'd be good for a lead role, that'd be good for secondary role, that'd be good for the love of interest, and they just, whatever kind of tickles their fancies, they're walking around looking at stuff. So we're just very lucky that they liked our stuff.
We were talking about kind of like advertising avenues and stuff. Has that kind of like been seeing your stuff in shows and movies? Has that been like a boost to your business, or is it more just kind of like people who know are like, hey, look at this?
Yeah. For us, I think it's very different for Taryn, but for us, it's just more of like only people that some Joe Schmo non-gun guy is going to go, it was a great movie. They're not going to know this gun was that gun was that.
Yeah,
so they kind of already need to know our product to recognize our product. But we have had people say, I want to clone that gun, but nothing crazy. It's been like, a few dozen people.
It's hard. I think that your market and Terran's market are a little different in that regard.
And we build our guns in two very different ways. He's a world champion, grandmaster, incredible shooter that builds guns in that direction. And we build guns in a carry duty profession. Like we have guns issued to law enforcement, and we have our some of our products like our AOS plate system issued and authorized by dozens and dozens of law enforcement agencies across the country. We have a military contract for one of our accessories, our mil-spec SIG trigger. So we just kind of build in a very different mantra. Not saying what he does is bad. It's not at all. It's just two different styles. Yeah, two different purposes.
Yeah. And that's kind of getting into what you were saying before. A big pet peeve of mine that's totally unrelated to marketing, so I'm taking this in another direction again. People like to see a use case, and they think it's the use case for everyone. And it kind of goes back into what you were saying about, just put all that money into ammo and training, and eventually, you're right, you will outshoot that gun. Like, to make a Glock's trigger twice as good, it's as simple as polishing a connector, and that's something they don't do from the factory. You can't put a Smith & Wesson SDV9 into someone's hands and have them shoot that as well as, a staccato. It just doesn't happen because of the limitations of the hardware. Or, an old Prius versus a Ford Mustang or something like that. Hardware does matter past a certain point.
Yeah, I mean, like for instance, like the Crown Vic. You can only drive a Crown Vic to what the Crown Vic can do. But if you beef up the suspension, you'll be able to take turns much faster. You'll be able to keep the body roll to a minimum. You'll be able to maneuver that vehicle exceptionally better, right? Then change out the engine or supercharge the engine or whatever and have more power. You absolutely will have more ability with the right skill set to be able to do much better performance out of that vehicle. So it's the same thing on just a different context.
Yes. And this stuff is provable too. I mean, performance-based shooting is a measurable skill. You can take a stock trigger and you can take something that's been tuned up and you can, shoot splits out of it all day with a timer, which is, technology that exists and we can use. And you can prove that someone with a consistent level of skill will shoot better with this thing. So the argument is dead, in my opinion.
Well, Travis Haley put it in a really interesting context. He was talking about literally physical pull length and travel. So he was talking about when you take, for instance, like our trigger that removes most, not all, for safety, you can't take it all out, most of the pre-travel in a Glock. Well, now, from touch of trigger to break to reset to break, comparison to here, pull it back, then you have that wobble. And in some cases, when we build triggers, you can actually make this even shorter with the proper reset, the proper tuning of the connector and whatnot. Your finger is traveling less movement, the less length of travel, the faster you can be. That's just physics. So, when you put things in context, when people say, "Oh, we have trigger, there's no beating it," it's like, well, yes, there is, and you can physically be faster because you can have to physically move less. So there's just, I think a lot of people just are stuck in their ways, or again, it's that machismo that I know everything and there's nothing you can tell me that I don't.
Yeah. People need to humble themselves, especially people on the internet, but that'll never happen.
No.
People also have to learn the internet is not a real place, and the people with the loudest opinions usually are full of shit.
Can't get humbled if you don't shoot.
Yeah. Even if you do shoot, just if you speak in absolutes, people will listen to you less.
Yeah, literally. It's silly people.
Yeah. Only a Sith deals in absolutes.
So, kind of following this move up to Idaho, how's the future of agency feeling? Like, you guys have, you've obviously been on top of handgun customization for a long time now. You guys have inched into shotgun upgrades. Is there anything else on the horizon that you'd like to inch towards? I know we talked about this before the show. We're coming up to SHOT Show. Is there anything you can kind of tease or inch towards?
Well, how can I hint at it without owing the guys money? So when I used to do consistent lives on Friday on Instagram, the guy started putting a board up about how far into the live I would say something I'm not supposed to say, and so then I would owe them $100 if I screwed up, and because I'm the kind of guy that I get too excited. I love this stuff so much that I'm excited and I want to tell everybody about it.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Hey, dum, stop doing that because it's not ready yet." And I'm like, "But we're working on it." So anyway, I understand we're supposed to wait. I get it. So there are things coming for SHOT Show that will be awesome. When you introduce a product like the one we are planning to launch at SHOT, there are cookie cutter ways to do things, which I don't really think are the best way to do things. Then there are put some time, thought, and something cool that's different. Is it going to change it to where it's like, oh my God, it'll never be the same? No.
Yep.
But there are cool things to say, hey, this is unique about this, and this is an actual reason to bring this kind of product to market. And we have done that. So I'm pretty excited about it. And then one thing I can tell you is the theme of our party coming this year is Red Dawn, because it's the 40th anniversary of Red Dawn.
Hell yes.
Oh, yes. Wolverines.
So at our party, it'll be very Red Dawn themed.
Oh, man. BR, if we can make it, let's costumes.
I gotta make it.
You gotta make it.
Yeah.
You gotta
make it.
You gotta let me know if you guys are gonna make it for sure, because it's invite only. So we have private security that if you're not on the list, they turn you right back around. So if you're coming, I gotta get you on the list.
Alrighty.
Oh, well, thank you kindly. I really appreciate that. I feel like it would be very Red Dawn if we snuck in.
It would be.
Can get in trouble. I've got one more cheeky question on kind of like future things. Can you hint at any problems, even in like a really general sense, that are trying to be solved?
Trying to think, because the main focal point of it would very much so at least lock in the platform. So that's where it gets difficult. Does that mean it's Glock or 1911, 2011 or whatever, like it would be very blatantly obvious if it was a shotgun or a pistol of this kind or that kind. So, no, I can't really elaborate. I can feel the wrath of Pete, my VP of product. If he was here,
that's good discipline right there.
He'd be fully wound up, waiting to smack me in the back of the head for saying it. So,
don't say it.
Don't you do it. Yeah, but it'll be cool. It'll be worthwhile. And again, it's not just slapping my name on something just to do it. So there's purpose behind it.
Hell yeah. All right, so there's some stuff to stay tuned to agency for. We'll leave it at that for now.
Yes. And again, no professional relationship. I trust my lives to your guns every day. So I appreciate what you guys do. I've never had a malfunction out of this thing. It's fantastic. And BR will tell you, I shoot twice a week. Like, high round.
Oh yeah, it is a bitch to reach Nathan every single. I'm at the range. God. Well, I mean, good on you. I'm jealous, but
it helps living in the middle of nowhere. So
I miss public land so much.
Yeah, there's just a gravel pit that I just go to and just take a bunch of target stands out. It's fun. It's fun.
Yeah, out east, they don't believe in that kind of thing.
Yeah,
does not exist.
Yeah, Idaho, we got mountains, so there's plenty of backdrops.
Yeah, there's a lot.
We got mountains out here, just everyone owns them.
Yeah.
Well, there's that. Yeah, there's a pretty fair amount of BLM land out here. A lot of my guys have their favorite little spots they go to. We did a night shoot a couple weeks ago, and it's like this little bowl, so it's perfect. There's perfect berm, so it's pretty easy to find spots out here.
Yeah.
I did want to ask about the something you brought up a little bit earlier before we started to wrap up, which was the like kind of, I don't know what the proper term it is. It's not tactical driving, but like learning to maneuver a vehicle. Like, is that when you were taking courses for that, was that like strictly kind of law enforcement classes, or were there any kind of mixed civilian and law enforcement like there is for shooting?
There are civilian classes you can take. I took some in the military. My last year in the Marine Corps, I had a little different assignment, so I got to do some cool stuff. Nothing like special forces or anything like that. I'm not a high speed guy at all. Nothing cool in my background like that. And then
I think you're cool.
I appreciate it. My mom says I'm cool too.
Yeah.
But it's called EVOC, Evasive Vehicle Operators Course. And so for the most part, it's funny. A lot of it's teaching you how to park, which is a really silly thing. When you're
just like staging kind
of? No. Like this is how to parallel park your police car. Like, no joke, a lot of that. And then you get to the good stuff, which is, you're going 40 miles an hour or 35 or 40, and you have 20 yards and there's 3 lights, and you have to either go straight, turn into the right lane or the left lane. You have to like crank the wheels. There's fun stuff like that. Just testing reflexes, training you to pay attention. Pursuit training. They didn't teach us to pit, but a lot of the other agencies out there teach how to pit, like our highway patrol in California. They teach how to pit. Or J turns where you're driving backwards real fast and you spin the car around and keep going. A lot of really cool, fun stuff like that. But the most real thing that's most useful is, for some people, the parking is really useful. But most useful for chasing people is literally the pursuit training, where you just learn how to position the vehicle into turns and how to handle a turn. That's honestly the biggest thing, is just knowing how to handle the vehicle through a turn and approach a turn and pull out of the turn. And so it's totally different than off-roading. So like, if you take those principles, you put it off-road, you're going to be upside down. And if you put the off-road principles in the car, you're going to end up in someone's front yard or backyard in the building. It's super fun. It's really cool. Out in Vegas, actually, they have, I don't know if they still have it, but they have a company out there where you and your buddies can chase each other. And so if someone's driving a convertible and the other one's driving a police car, and you chase each other around a track. So they have like really cool stuff out there. And there are civilian courses that you can take that's EVOC. And so if you can find a course and you have the time, I'd suggest it, because it's good to know, but also it's a ton of fun.
Yeah, like it's something a friend of ours a while back, Pat Watson of Uncensored Tactical. He brought up the fact that like simple things like that. I mean, it's just like having a gun on you every day. I mean, you're always it's America. We rely on roads to get everywhere. You're always going to be in a vehicle, and like you're probably going to have it as much, if not more, than a sidearm, or in equal measure. And it's like this is something people should probably know. Like, I mean, for a get out of Dodge situation, or I mean, as the economy gets a little bit rougher, we see carjacking videos and the like popping up here and there a little bit more frequently. It's like, man, what would I do in that situation? I don't have a fucking clue how to really use my vehicle. And
or if you're running from the cops.
There you go.
He's got a brace in his rifle. Get him.
I wasn't gonna say it.
You're like, you're gonna work for it today.
Yeah. You really want me? Let's see. Track down my 20-year-old Tacoma. I'm gonna put this thing to work. But no, it's something I've been fascinated by, because it's like like medical, like carrying a gun to protect your life and others. It's a vehicle use is something I think people should kind of have even a basic grasp on. Like something I think Pat mentioned was something as simple as, if you come to a stop, just having like a certain amount of space. So if for whatever reason, think of your insert scenario here, you could push vehicles out of the way with enough momentum to get out of a situation. And like simple things like that is like, I started, I don't know shit about it, and I'd love to learn, but just when I come to a stop now, I'm like, if I had to shove this little Prius out of the way because of X, Y, or Z, how far back do I need to be?
Honestly, I think the biggest, most important thing, which is applicable at any scenario, I'm at dinner, I'm at church, I'm driving, I'm my finger in my nose, waiting for my coffee at the non-communist coffee shop.
Is there such a thing?
Yeah. It's purely situational awareness. So when you're there, having situational awareness to realize I need a gap, or if I change lanes, I could be at the front so no one's behind me, or realizing I'm boxed in because it's traffic, but I'm leaving a gap so that if I need to pin somebody, I could, or reposition the vehicle to give me a point of escape. Not necessarily, to push something out of my way, but just they start coming from my front row. I have enough room to push the car this way or that way, or just put the truck between me and them to get the hell out of there, right? Situational awareness, not being in condition red, or the worst, being in black when, oh crap, I didn't see it coming and it's crazy. You just want to be in that yellow, right? You don't want to be white and not paying attention in La La Land. You can't be orange where you're like, the whole freaking time.
Like the sheepdog, dangerous around every corner.
Yeah, you just want to be cruising in yellow, paying attention, not being buried in your phone, and keeping your eyes open. You're keeping your ears open. There's a thing where not blasting your music is, have it at a normal level to where you can still hear important things. You're going to hear someone ninjaing up on your, behind you? No, but you would see them if you're paying attention. I think it's a lot of people just get lost in their day-to-day, which is easy to do. Deep in thought, family problems, money problems, especially now with this Bidenomics.
I'm loving it.
Yeah, where we all get lost in our thoughts. But situational awareness is number one.
Yeah. Big facts, people. One final thing I wanted to kind of touch on was something we very briefly mentioned, was kind of those Bidenomics and kind of how they're impacting the industry at the minute. It's kind of a weird time because we had this, as we were talking about earlier, this big surge in kind of new gun owners, and like there was a time during the pandemic where people were like, wow, business is better than ever. Like we can't keep anything on the shelves. Like you go into a pretty up to date, tactical, whatever you want to call it, gun store, and all that's left on the walls is like, little 22 junior rifles and a couple of bolt actions and FUD calibers, and it's like, oh, what happened to your like 20 ARs and bullpups you have on the walls? Oh, every single one's gone. And now we're in a situation where it's kind of cooling down as people's wallets are getting a little bit tighter. Like, you mentioned it's kind of industry wide. I don't know what can really be done to keep things healthy. Like, do you have any kind of insight into kind of
Well,
everyone's pinching right now, but how can we keep our industry and culture healthy economically?
that's it's tough, man. I mean, I'm not an economist, and hell, I'm a
Yeah.
Marine, so I'm not even that smart. But what I can tell you is our dealers are telling us they're hurting, and it's not like we're just hurting trying to move your product. No, it's just across the board.
Yeah.
We have a couple of dealers that have been in business for 30 years. They're saying they've never seen a summer or a year like this. And I think we have two things going against us. So the way the gun flow was pre-2020 is you're doing great, and then high school graduation time frame, college graduation, basically June hits, and we're all just like, we're all gonna die. And oh my god, it sucks. And then you hit September, kids are back in school, and people then are not paying for vacations and graduation presents and taking their kids to college and setting them up in college, shipping cars or driving U-Hauls, right? So all that summertime goodness that we're, historically always makes gun sales poo poo, is the summer. Then traditionally September, sometimes a bad year. October, things will pick back up, and they're like, oh, thank God, it's all great again. We can actually eat more than just black beans and white rice. Fantastic. And so then you're kind of cruising again, and then you forget how about it, and then you're like, oh my God, it's summer, we're all going to die, and the cycle continues. Well, 2020 anomaly impacted, and it didn't go like, hey, yuck, hey, it just went, oh my God. And it was just insane numbers that was not anything that anyone could keep up with.
Along with supply issues and all that.
Yeah, and it was just Captain Insano, right? And he was showing no mercy. Up here, it was great. And I think too many people got complacent, which, we always say in Iraq and in combat, complacency kills. You stop being complacent, or you start being complacent, it's going to kill you, right? Same thing, we got complacent with basically sales volume. Well, so you're 2020. All right, it's got to slow down eventually. 2021, it's not slowing down. Hell yes, right? Then 2022, and it started to. And then 2023, then the summer hit, and it freaking nosedived. And what I think happened is twofold. The boneheads running this country are just, inflation is horrific. I mean, hell, look at the price of milk, look at the price of eggs, look at the price of, my bill at the supermarket buying the same damn stuff was $180, and this last weekend it was $310. Major, and it's hitting people real hard in the wallet. But the second thing, for this industry in particular, this is the first year where I think things have normalized to common trends. Great death. Oh my God, right? And so we are seeing that our trends are coming back right now, not to the norms of 2017, 18, 19, but it's coming back, which is good. But I think it's, our norm is not going to be ever here again. I think our norms industry-wide, not agency specifically, is going to be here. And how do you float that? Tighten up your budget. As a company-wise, like tighten up your budget, cut back spending, be very selective with what you launch to make sure that you're putting the money where it means to go, and then frugal.
Yeah.
And for a consumer, that doesn't have, as much disposable income, just choose wisely. Listen to the people that you think are well informed, on YouTube or in publications or whatever, and spend your money smart. If you have buddies that have it, try it out. If you have a range that has that whiz bang go juice awesomeness, well then, take it for a spin. I just think, being wise with your purchases is going to be more critical for people than it was, when Trump was in office.
Yeah. Less range toys, more tools.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong. So if you want that, tiger stripe gold Desert Eagle, hey man, you do you, boo boo. Get what you want. But it's one of those things where so when I was, kind of scraping by, because I got divorced right when I became a cop. I was married through the Marine Corps, got out, and everyone always says, when you're a cop, you got to have a divorce. I'm like, yeah, I got mine done at month 3 of being a cop. So,
Oh.
So I knocked that out quick, right?
Box ticked.
Yeah, check that box real early. But back then it was hard. It was really hard because we had just bought a house. I kept the house, and it was like, holy crap! I was on, no joke, black beans, white rice. Like, I was scraping by to make my mortgage because it was a brand new cop, and I hadn't even started getting through the raise structure, right? Anyway, but back then, being real tight on funds, I wouldn't trick a gun out. I would just buy ammo, right? Because that's all I could do. It was either I go shoot or I don't shoot, and I got a really cool gun. So at the time, I spent the money on ammo. And so that's what I say is just, wisely look at your purchases and spend money where it is. But granted, the other thing I was going to say that, I'm sorry, I almost lost my own train of thought, is I had one rifle that was my go-to rifle, right? And I had my pistol that was my go-to training pistol because I didn't want to beat up my duty pistol. And then I had my backup gun and my off-duty gun. And so I just had my kind of essentials. And once I had my essentials locked in, I had my work rifle, my work shotgun, my work pistol, then my training pistol, my backup, and my off-duty. Then was the point where I'm like, okay, now I can trick them out a little bit. Now I can add another gun that I really wanted, and that's when you can start doing it. But if you got your essentials, which I'm not getting into weaponology about, you need to have a shotgun, you don't need a shotgun. Whatever you feel and is most informed, or whoever you look up to, if you don't know or don't have these opinions yet, once you get your essentials in, then you can dabble. I'd say the most important thing is get your essentials locked in, depending on also where you live, like out in California, everything is like, make the guns as small as possible because it's all urban. Now that I moved to Idaho, I'm like, sweet, I really like having all these short guns because now I have to shoot hundreds of yards. So now it's all 18s and 16s and, for 5.56 and 20 barrels for 308s. And because you don't have to worry about urban environments, really. God forbid things went crazy, right?
Yeah.
So your essential pack, mine has shifted. So, that's what I'm saying. Once you get your essentials, then have a ball. Trick it out. Paint it freaking pink polka dot. Whatever you want. I don't care. Like, just have fun with it. Enjoy it. Train with it. But get your essentials first. Then you can have your fun.
Hell yeah. You said you weren't an economist, but I think for this industry, that was a pretty succinct summary of everything going on. So I really appreciate that insight.
Sure.
I agree.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Mike. I think we're going to wrap it up here. We're coming up to 2 hours, but we do have Nathan. You got something?
2 things. First, Mike, I'd like to. We haven't done this in a little bit. I want some dad advice.
Well, I'm not a dad yet, but I can pass on advice that my dad gave me, and it's real advice. So it's not the funny advice, but it's the genuine good advice.
No, that's the best stuff. Either will work.
So my dad's a retired police chief, and then he now works at a hospital. And my dad was a DARE cop. Do you guys know what the DARE program is?
Oh, DARE, like stay off drugs.
Drugs one.
Yeah. I've got one of those shirts. It's one of my prized possessions.
Yeah. So my dad taught that for literally almost 10 years. One thing he learned about it is he basically taught an entire generation of kids that then grew up and became the business owners or took over family businesses, and so he had this whole generation of people. Like, we couldn't go anywhere because it was always Officer Parks. It's Officer Parks. We're like, shit. Now we're gonna be late to the movie, right? But things that he taught me that have really, really done well for helping me with my life, and I don't want to say to be successful because that's such a silly term nowadays, and because there's such a range, right? I just say to have a good life, be a good person. Really, is the most important thing. Is treat everybody the same, man. So, like when I was a cop, if it was the busboy, I treated him like he owned the place, and I can give you an anecdotal story about something that came of that if you'd like. But treating everybody the same is always going to be good, because you never know when you're going to need that person, if that person's going to help you, or what if down the road one day the roles have changed in positions of power or of success, whatever you want to equate that to, and now that person is someone that could be the person that you're going to work for, or you really need help from, and they remember that you treated them like crap, right? So it's like my dad really equated around the badge as power, because we have the power to take people's freedom and take them to jail and all that stuff. And so he always said, never, ever think you're better than anyone else. You put your pants on one leg at a time, and that will send out great ripples throughout your whole life if you can live by that.
I love that. That's come up on the show before, and that's one of my favorite life lessons. I think that's don't be a dick. Treat people well.
The universal rule.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That is like one
of, gun.
Yeah. That's actually like one of the things that I will, and I think I've brought this up before. I will stop talking to people. It's like the litmus test is, do they treat people well when there's no consequences for treating them poorly?
Yeah.
And if they don't, then that's it. They had one chance. That's the only thing I'm really strict on, but I'm pretty strict on it.
Well, dude, the anecdotal story, it was this. A busboy. I would go eat lunch all the time as a cop. Ended up giving this guy some advice. He was an immigrant that didn't make a lot of money. And he had 2 sons, and he was battling his ex-wife for the kids. And she got into drugs, post their divorce, got into drugs, and wasn't exactly the best parent. So he was asking for advice. So one of my partners was a former divorce attorney, actually. So he's like, I can't give you legal advice, but I can tell you to ask these questions, potentially, right? So we helped him out, and he was always nice to us, and we treated, again, all the busboys, the waiters, the waitresses, the owner, everyone the same. Well, dude, like 2 years after I had met this guy, right? He, good relationship, whatnot. I pull a car over on a Sunday, and I didn't know, because we rode one-man cars, so I was by myself. Pull this car over, someone's on the radio, so I can't put out that I'm on a traffic stop, so no one knows I'm on a traffic stop. And as I'm walking up to the car, I didn't know at the time, but the plate is what's called a cold-plated stolen, meaning if it's an F-150, it's stolen, they'll go drive up and pull the plates off another F-150 and put them on, because these aren't reported stolen, so you don't know it's a stolen car. So I got this car pulled over, I'm walking up, 2 guys jump out, and it's a full-blown fight, right? No one knows where I'm at in the city. No one knows that I'm on a traffic stop, and I'm fighting 2 dudes. So I'm on my back. They're dragging me in between the cars, my Crown Vic and the F-150, and they're trying to pull me to where people can't see me, and they're trying to beat my ass, right? And I'm on my back. I'm in the worst position, and my mic had fallen down. No idea where my mic is, and I'm in a full-blown fight. Well, this guy happened to play soccer every Sunday, and I was in the bit just by sheer chance, I was on his path home. So he's driving by, looks over, sees his buddy Officer Parks getting his ass kicked, jumps out, and he still had his shin guards on, just runs up and starts kicking the living shit out of one of the dudes that was on top of me. And that was the only reason I was able to get onto my knees, grab my radio, put out a call for help, and start fighting these guys and take them both into custody once other cops got there. But literally, if I would have treated him like shit, he would have been like, sucks to be you, nerd, and just kept driving. Or, just pulled up and started videotaping it on his phone and just seeing how bad it got. So that's where it's like, that's a life or death one. But nevertheless, you never know. That guy saved my life, probably.
That's a hell of a way to see that lesson proven.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it can be life changing, So treat everybody the same. Treat them all like they're the kings of the world. And
put your damn grocery carts back.
Yes. Put
your grocery carts in the corral.
Yeah.
All right. What an anecdote to end on. But thank you so much, Mike. Really appreciate your time. Hopefully we can do this again sometime, and hopefully we can drag ourselves to the agency Red Dawn party.
It would be awesome to have you guys there, and thank you very much for allowing me to be on your show.
Absolutely, man.
It's been a pleasure. Hopefully we can do it again.
Absolutely, anytime.
All right.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
See you guys.